Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, Rashid, and right now we're waiting for Carl Zha to make his way into the booth. Before we go into the show today, hopefully he'll make it in, and there's not any connection problems, but we got to remember that he's all the way in Bali. So there may be some connection problems, and I want to assure everyone, say, for instance, we're doing this show and that he cannot make it into the booth for technical reasons or because there is a issue with his internet. We will make up for it, just like we always do with the shows. But before we go further, I want to address a few things. Give me 1 second while I'm here we go, right here. I want to address a few things that's going on. And so give me 1 second, all right? Give me 1 second. Because your feedback means a lot, okay? Your feedback means a lot. And so I don't want you guys to think I've ignored you or whatever. I don't want you guys to think that I'm taking you for granted. So there were some comments on the show that aired a few days ago, re-aired on the Red Pill Diaries. It was an interview courtesy of Real Truth Talk. And I was a guest co-host, and we interviewed a former captain of the Serbian or the Yugoslavian armed forces who was there at a time when NATO bombed Yugoslavia and balkanized it. And as a matter of fact, he will be on our show in the upcoming days to weeks. But there were a few comments, and I'll have to address the comments real quick, and then we'll go into the show, okay? So everybody be patient with me. I want to thank everybody who's watching me via Twitter, who's watching via Rumble, our sister channel, the Red Pill Journals, Odyssey, and every other platform, excuse me. But Omalaka's 41, and I might be mispronouncing it, 4156 says, in just a few days, you've hosted Larry Johnson, Matthew Eric, and Mike Maholovich. You're on a roll, my friend. Keep it up. Well, actually, you forgot. We also interviewed Dimitri Lascaris also in those days. So it was 4 people that was interviewed, and it was supposed to be 5, but someone couldn't make it at that time. Now, one of our regulars, Flying Crocodile, 4630, he brings up something, and he says, what happened to the rescheduling of Scott Ritter's interview, Rashid? Well, first, Flying Crocodile, I'm one person, man. I appreciate it, but I'm one person, and I have to, keep doing what I'm doing. Now, here's the thing. When I saw your comment down there, I know it was no offense to it, but when I saw your comment down there, it caused me to check my emails yesterday. Yesterday, matter of fact, I have to say this. Happy birthday to my not my oldest brother, but my brother right over me. We had a real good time on his birthday yesterday. Shout out to my brother Chris. After that, I checked my emails, which were late in the afternoon, well, in the nighttime, and it was Scott Ritter, and I did not get his message until then. He sent the message, but my email didn't let me know about it until yesterday, last night or whatever. And he wanted to do the show yesterday morning. Okay. But I contacted him back and let him know, hey, I didn't get the email until, when I'm contacting you now. So that's another thing. So he has a schedule, and he'll fit me back into the schedule whenever he can. Okay. So Flying Crocodile, that's the answer for you. Now I want to say this, and then we'll keep going. Then I'll hit Carl on Twitter and see where he's at and if he's having technical problems. YouTube has been unsubscribing and stealing not only subscribers but views. I did the interview with Larry Johnson, and I was taken out of the search engine. And what Larry did, and I got a big up on this, Larry Johnson put the video on his website, and the website and the video caught traction and got over 2,000 views because I was taken out. For some reason, I was taken out of the search engine. All right. The video was at 2,000 views last night. Today it stands at 1,800 or 1,900 views. And you make that make sense. All right. The subscribership went from 3650 something down to 3620, and now it's back up to 3650 So at last glance. So you make that make sense, okay? I'm just letting you know we have pictorial proof of this stuff too. So I'm not just saying this. Now, while I'm talking to you all, let me go to Twitter real quick. Hit Carl up real quick. He may be still having technical problems. 1 second. I should have called him, but that's a long call. So hold on 1 second. All right, Carl. We are waiting for you. Waiting for you on the stream. All right. I just hit him up. So now, until we get Carl, let's talk about what's going on. Well, we see old crazy man Biden still acting a fool. We see the Western leaders like Justin Trudeau and Olaf Shaw. What is his name? Olaf. I forget his last name. Being stool pigeons and willing to wreck their own economies and the livelihood of their own people to try to impose upon people a dying world order. Because this is what it's all about. I was listening to Justin Trudeau, the fool out of Canada, and he was talking about Russia, because I guess something Vladimir Putin said got up under his skin or whatever. Well, Vladimir didn't lie. He was telling the truth, and so Justin took offense to it, and Boris, whatever his name, used to be the prime minister of Boris Johnson, who used to be the prime minister of the UK. It got up under his skin too, because he attacked Putin today too, right? So listen, Trudeau was talking about how they're going to support Ukraine, and they do it because it is the basis to the international law, and this is Russia's trying to challenge the rules-based order. Well, first of all, there's no charter about a rules-based order. Rules-based order is a contraption, or it was contrived by the elite of the West, right? And what they have imposed their way and their dictates on the world. And now that the world is moving away from that, they feel threatened, because remember, at the heart of the rules-based order is dollar domination. Without the dollar being the dominant currency, America cannot spend into oblivion. She cannot export inflation. She cannot deficit spend like she likes to do, project those budgets into the future, the debt into the future, right? She can't manipulate her policies to cause the overthrow of governments. She can't fund the military like she want to do. She cannot bribe or threaten leaders and nations without that. And this is the linchpin to British power also, because the pound sterling is tied to the dollar. And the Western world is used to being able to use the currency to destroy others or to manipulate the situation to their advantage. That's why as soon as they put Russia in a position where Russia would have to attack Ukraine to save the people in the Donbass, and also to prevent NATO bases all across Ukraine, they did not hesitate to impose sanctions. Sanctions are a manipulation of the currency. You cannot sell or buy in my currency. You can't use this system to do this with. You can't do, and we're going to freeze all international norms, and we're going to seize your assets. That's theft. That's piracy. That's international piracy. So that is why they don't care about sounding hypocritical, because one thing that everybody should know right here and right now is that they want power, they want wealth, and they want to be able to exercise their power and wealth over everybody else. They want that. And they are willing to take the world to war to prevent any nation or combination of nations challenging what they call a rules-based international order. And these rules are based on American, British, and European dictates. And they're saying the rules apply to you. They may sometimes apply to me, but when I don't want them to apply to me, then hey, we won't address that they apply to me. We'll just say that they apply to you. These rules, and I want you to think about this, okay? Because what is this about? We have to understand the reason I tell you these things and talk to you like this is because I want to provoke thought. Whether we agree or not, I want to provoke thought. I want you to start using that gray matter up there, okay? Because they have manipulated the information space so much that most people can't tell heads from tails, right? So with this international rules-based order, it is to force every nation in compliance to American, British, and European dictates. Now, I want you to think about this. Europe got up in a crawl when Russia said, you know what? We will no longer accept the euro for our gas and our oil. Europe, well, you can't do that. That's black. Well, hold on. Stop right there. I want you to look at this. What if, say for instance, any of you have Cox Cable in the States, in the United States. You have Cox Cable or you have T-Mobile. Just say, because I think T-Mobile or Verizon, these phone companies are national, okay? And you just go to Verizon and your bill is $150, right, a month. And you go to Verizon one day. Now Verizon is offering you the service, the phones, and all of the technical things that come with that. And they say our bill is for 3 phones $150, and you'll pay that every month in dollars. And you come there, you get mad. You've badmouthed Verizon. You've tried to bring a lawsuit against Verizon, and then you come there the next month and say, "Hey, I don't want to pay in dollars. I want to pay in this monopoly money." Do you think that Verizon would accept that? I'm asking. Do you think that you can just get some paper and draw some currency on there and put your tape your face to that and say, the only way I'm going to pay you is with this? How can the person who is in need of the service or the person who's in need of the product demand that they pay for the product how they want to instead of the people who are supplying the product to you? This is what see, in that mind of exceptionalism, you do as I say and you go along as I tell you, or else this is a travesty of justice. You're trying to use your oil and gas and all of this other stuff to manipulate the prices, and you're trying to use it to bring us in subjection. No, you're using your currency, because as soon as you got teed off with me, you sanctioned me. You seized my assets. But you're the one buying the gas and the oil from me. So why should I let you dictate how much the oil and gas is and which currency you should buy in it? If you don't want it, if you don't want my terms on the paper, you don't have to sign the agreement. If you don't want or need my services or what I'm supplying, my goods, then you don't have to accept what I'm telling you that you must accept if you want it. You have a choice in that. And the European Union, following the United States, have chosen the path to deindustrialization and the destruction of their economic prowess. This is due to imperial hubris. You understand? This is imperial hubris at its finest. How dare Russia weaponize oil? Hey, you sanctioned my oil. You sanctioned my gas. So as long as I allowed you to sanction my oil and my gas to everybody else, and I didn't put any stipulations on you, and you were able to get it in cheap, oh, that's the fair way to do it. But when you sanction me and I say, hold on, I wouldn't do that if I was you, and you go ahead and do it to my detriment, and then you openly, listen to me good, you openly state that your goal is to destroy the Russian economy and to bring the Russian nation to its knees. Common sense tells me this, and the first law of nature tells me what to do, because the first law of nature is self-preservation. So if you are attacking me and you openly say that this is what we're going to do, and we're going to break your economy, we're going to break your leadership, we're going to break your government, and we're going to break your nation with these crippling sanctions, and we're going to force you to submit and bow to our dictates. Guess what I'm going to do? Because I know that is a detriment to my security and to my livelihood, I'm going to fight it. And since you openly state that your desire is to bring me to my knees, guess what I'm going to do? Knowing that you need my oil, my gas, and all of my fertilizer and cooking oil and all of this stuff, guess what? I'm going to make it so hard for you to get that I'm going to try to break your economy. And now if we look at the situation, who's winning? And it's the people who initiated the fight that got the black eye, the broken nose, the teeth knocked out, and the jaw broke. They're screaming at the person who was defending himself against their reckless actions against them. It's just mind-blowing, isn't it? And at the same time you want my oil and gas, you are making these trips around the world vilifying me and constantly pouring in mercenaries and special forces and weapons into an already explosive situation on my border. See, I'm going to tell you what Russia should have done. I'll tell you what I would have done, okay? You make the move against me, I would warn you, listen, this is not either in my best interest or your best interest. Let's sit down and let's talk about this. Now, when you refuse negotiations and you refuse and you push back my hand, my open hand, saying, let's talk on this, and you push it back, I'm not going to try to jam it down your face anymore. I'm going to move it back and I'm going to say, okay, so that's the path you're walking. So if that's the path you chose, then you must accept all of that which comes with that. So now I'm telling you what I would have done. Supplying 40% of Europe's oil and gas, I would have cut them off completely. Not let it trickle down through there. Even in Vladimir Putin's interview with by Tucker Carlson, Vladimir Putin said, well, Germany still has 1 or 2 pipelines that can be used. All they have to do is give the word and we will supply it. Why? They are killing your soldiers and your troops and your people, and they are stating before the world that you are the aggressor, and they are trying to vilify you. And your nation's livelihood is at stake, because if America's plan goes through, she would use Ukraine as a springboard, and she would use Moldova, and she would use Georgia and all of the former Soviet republics that she already has in NATO to beat you down. I wouldn't do it. No, I would cut you off. And I would tell India, I know India makes a pretty penny off of reselling the gas. I said, listen here, this is a crucial time. We've stood by you in your weakest hours and your weakest days when you went to war. We supplied you when the West wouldn't supply you. We supplied you with technology, weapons. We helped your economy. We did this. Now, it's time for you to reciprocate. Now, you can buy oil and gas from us, but if we catch you selling it to the European nations, we will sanction you and cut you off also. Because this will show them, hey, two can play this game. Maybe we should climb down off that horse, and maybe we can negotiate. Because when the people hit the streets and the businesses board up and close, and hunger becomes a reality, and homelessness spreads across, unemployment explodes, and the anger in the midst of the people in these different nations rise up, the governments will be put in a position where they will have to talk beyond the propaganda and the madness and address the underlying issues that plague the nation, that'll force them to climb down off that high horse. You understand? But I don't care how much money you're willing to pay for my chemicals and my resources. If you sanction me, and if you openly say that you're trying to break my economy, guess what? What's good for the goose, it has to be good for the gander. And when you implement these sanctions, remember, I'm going to reciprocate. And because I am self-sufficient in farming, oil, gas, and all of these resources, instead of me looking west, I'm going to turn east, where the largest population on the planet is, and I'm going to invest there. And when I turn, don't ask me to turn back your way because you've introduced 12 or 13 sanction packages against me. Do you understand? So you have initiated, listen to me good, you have initiated an economic war, and everybody knows what follows economic wars. Everybody knows. Because almost all economic wars evolve and metastasize into shooting wars. Almost all of them. Just check your history. Almost all of them. Let me check. While I'm talking to you all, let me go to Carl. He is still having that problem. Okay. Listen, we're gonna stay on the air for a little bit longer. All right. We'll see if he can make it through. See if he can get this straightened. If not, we'll bring him on whenever he gets this straightened. It's cool. It's cool. It's Saturday. I understand what's going on. Also, we're gonna try to have, for those of you who are the channel members, we'll be putting up new content in a few days. For those of you who are patrons, we had a video uploaded, hour and a half, almost 2 hour video, and it was deleted. It was a good video, so we have to redo it, and then we'll have Matthew Eric doing, I don't know if we're going to have him on that private or we're going to have it open, but just give me a chance to get all that stuff worked out, because there are complications behind the scene with certain things, like you can see right now. Okay. So let's go back to the subject at hand. I want to show you something real quick. All right, let me go to, where is it at? Okay. Let me go to my emails real quick, because I want to show you something. Where is it at? Ah, there it is. There it is. Okay. I want you guys to understand this. All right. That the reason the US and Europe and the UK are doing what they're doing is because their world is collapsing. You understand what I'm saying? I don't think a lot of you get it. That's why you'll hear me say something, then you'll hear me read a definition or me re-emphasize stuff. Sometimes you have to do that to convey to some people the deeper picture that you're trying to give to them. Okay, the dollar is collapsing right in front of us, right? The economic environment is collapsing. The social environment is collapsing. The political environment is collapsing. Everything. Listen to me good. I was looking at before I go to this article, I was looking at an article by, what is his name? A billionaire investor. I forget his name. It was part article and part video. And he was talking about multiple black swans that cannot be avoided, that are on their way. And when they do, they're going to ravage the U.S. economy and the Western world. Listen to me good. I was just watching this, like, was it yesterday or day before yesterday? It'll come to me because I know I have it saved in one of my computers. But to show you just how bad things are getting, that they're trying to hide from you, okay? This is from watcher.guru. And the title of the article is BRICS, B-R-I-C-S, all right? And it says 159 countries eyeing Russia's new payment system, all right? And listen to what it says here. And this is my first time reading with you. I just saved this when I saw it earlier today. So, BRICS members, Russia confirmed that the country is building an alternative to the SWIFT payment system without integrating the US dollar. The new payment mechanism will settle cross-border transactions in local currencies, making BRICS and other developing countries sideline the US dollar. Boom. You heard that? To sideline. Now, hold on one second. Let me feed you something, okay? Give me something real quick. All righty. All right, here we go right here. The word sideline is a noun, and it means, and I'm going to go to the chat. Y'all keep the conversation going, okay? I'm going to look at what's going on in the chat, and I'll bring up some of your things in a few minutes. Sideline is a noun. It says an activity done in addition to one's main job, especially to earn extra income. Similar, secondary occupation, second job, side job, subsidiary, hobby. Now, it says, cause a player to be unable to play in a team or a game. That's what we're looking for right there. Or the second one. Listen to this one. To remove from the center of activity or attention, place in a less influential position. Did you hear that part? To remove from the center of activity or attention, to place in a less influential position. Let's go back to that article, okay, that we were just looking at, which is something. All right, what did this just pop up? It says BRICS member Russia confirmed that the country is building an alternative to the SWIFT payment system without integrating the US dollar. The new payment mechanism will settle cross-border transactions in local currencies, making BRICS and other developing countries sidelined. Or to what? What did the definition say? To remove from the center of activity or attention. What center of activity? Global commerce, global trade. To remove it from the center of that. And if you remove that from the center of it, that means America does not get a cut anymore in nation-to-nation trade. Do you know that every time the dollar is used in global trade, the United States gets a cut of that? She's like a middleman. And to sideline the dollar means that these billions of dollars, these tens of billions of dollars that America gets from these nations every year will go out the window. She's already having problems servicing her debt. So with this extra revenue out of the way, and then nobody buying U.S. treasuries, right? That means America would have to get off, either get on the potty and pee or get off the potty. That means that she would either have to become productive or lose her complete standing globally. You understand? You understand? Placed in a less influential position. That's what that article is talking about. That Russia and the BRICS nations and the global south, be it Africa, Latin America, or the rest of Asia or Eurasia, are moving away from dollar denomination and dollar domination, which means a less influential place for the dollar, which also reverberates through Europe because it means a less influential position for the pound sterling and a less influential position for the euro. Because all three of these are tied into one. Do you understand? I hope that you guys understand that, okay? Now, let's read a little bit more. Because like I said, this is the first time I've read it too. Watcher Guru has recently reported that 20 countries are already on board to initiate transaction in local currencies when Russia's new payment system is out. So China has a payment system. Russia has a payment system. Iran has a payment system. India is trying to get up a payment system. The South American nations are trying to get up a payment system. Believe it or not, Africa has a payment system. The United States has been trying to bribe them not to use their own payment system. You understand? It's not in development. The payment system went live, I believe, 2 years ago. And the United States, the UK, and the European Union have been trying to threaten and bribe African nations not to use that way of settlement between those African nations, or between African and Latin American nations, or between African and European, or African and Eurasian, or African and Asian nations trade. Do you know that? Arrogance. The arrogance of this. I'm not joking about this. This is showing us where the American economy is going. As a matter of fact, let me see something real quick on this computer. There's an article out today. No, 2 days ago. And it's by, where is it? It's by, I think, Jah Hamid, right? And it's on MSN.com. Excuse me. And the name of the article is Federal Reserve Predicts a Gloomy Future for US Dollar. What? But I thought the US dollar was rebounding. I thought the US dollar had no rivals or no foreseeable threats in the future because none of the other currencies were sound enough or freely floated enough. Listen to what it says. Settle in, guys, because it looks like the US dollar is heading for a rough patch, and it is not just small talk at the water cooler. The big guns at the Federal Reserve have basically come out and said we've got a problem. And when the Fed speaks, you know it's time to listen. They're not known for beating around the bush or making a fuss over nothing. This time, they're pointing fingers at their own aggressive moves to keep inflation in check, hinting that maybe, just maybe, they've been playing the game a bit too hard. With the BRICS nations, what? Now we see the BRICS interjected, which is what? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now a slew of other nations that are in the BRICS. With the BRICS nations making moves to permanently ditch the dollar in their trade and investments, it's like watching a high school clique drama, but with billions of dollars at stake. They're tired of the dollar calling the shots and are all ready to see what life's like without it hogging the spotlight. Remember that definition? That definition of sideline? What does it say? Cause a player to be unable to play in a team or a game. Removed from the center of activity or attention. Placed in a less influential position. Is that not right? Is that not what that article is saying right there? You know it is. I'm not making this stuff up. Let me see if he's got his thing together. Hold on one second, everybody. Let me go right back. Let's see. Come on. Oh, no. Still, we got to wait for him. I'll give a few more minutes, okay? It's all good. We can still shake, rattle, and roll. And if he's not able to get this connection and stuff up good, then we'll do it over again, okay? But check this out. So we're hearing that the American dollar is under tremendous pressure, tremendous stress, right? Then why, every time you turn around, you hear a lie about the Chinese economy? See, misdirection. You know, with a magician, I call the U.S. government, the U.S. Federal Reserve, the U.S. Treasury, right? And the political elite magicians. And why do I call them that? You know what a magician does to wow you, right? When you think, you say, wow, look at the trick that they've done. How could they do that? And it blows your mind. The reason they're able to make their trick come over the way it is through misdirection. They will misdirect because they know you're focused on the trick, right? So they will do something that will take your attention elsewhere while the heart of the trick lies over here. They'll make you look here while the heart of the trick lies over here. That is the same thing with the global elite, with the West, with the leaders, with the financiers and all. I mean, the financial men and pundit and women. You know, they misdirect. So we just had it that 159 nations is trying to move into a position of working with the Russian payment system. Now, what's significant about that was left out of that article? Isn't it ironic that is the same amount of nations that are on board with China's Belt and Road Initiative? And that have already signed up to use the yuan and the Belt and Road Initiative? What coincidence is that? So we hear Xi Jinping just the other day reiterate the position it had with Russia as being more than strategic allies. And they were talking about how they would work in unison to push policies over and confront global bullies, right? And out of the blue, we get an article with the same amount of people, same amount of countries that are already on board of the Belt and Road Initiative, which the Chinese yuan will be the lead currency in, that are signing up for Russia's payment system. And remember that Russia's payment system is connected and will be connected to China's Union-Pay. And remember that Iran had initiated the West Asian Economic Union, not the Eurasian, but the West Asian Economic Union, which is in conjunction with the Russian-led Eurasian Economic Union. Huh? What are the odds of this? Are they not trying to sideline America's dominance, America's influence? According to all of the data that we have been privy to, they are working to oust the dollar, right? Right. So again, that goes back to what I was just getting ready. I hadn't forgot what I was saying to you all. The misdirection by the magician. So with growing debt, low productivity, with mounting unemployment, mounting bankruptcies, and everything else that you can imagine, that an economy that is spiraling out of control is going through. We see that the United States, the UK, and European nations are facing that, right? And yet they come out with this article right here. There's an article. You go. Call me when you get settled in your office. Okay. All right. Be careful. Okay. All right. I'll talk to you later. So, listen to what this article says right here. China dealt crushing blow as the economy may never overtake U.S. This came out with, a day ago or something like that, right? And this by Holly Bishop, all right? And listen to what it says. See, this is more wishful thinking. And by the way, everybody hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Please do that. I see everybody. Holly, my girl Holly is in the building. MZ is in the building. Ping One is in the building. My guy Mehdi is in the building. Oh, Joel Bradford is in the house. So check this out. Net Rando was the first person in the building. Shout out to Net Rando and everybody else who's stopping by, who are dropping by. Thank you all for coming through. Check this out though. Let's read the article. Let's read a little bit of the article and see about this propaganda. China may never surpass the U.S. to become the world's largest economy, a leading investment bank has claimed. Nathan Sheets, a global chief economist at Citi. Now listen to this. He's from Citi. Why should we even believe him when Citibank was one of the causes of the financial crisis? I'm asking. Huh? Was not Citibank one of the main causes for the financial crisis that the United States and the Western world had almost taken the world down with? Huh? So right there, we know that, first of all, when there's a murder, when there's a rape, when there's a robbery, murder, what do they say? Motive, right? What else? Motive, what? Who benefits, right? And who has I'm getting a blank right now because I'm trying to read this article. But who had motive, opportunity? Yeah, motive, opportunity, right? And who benefits? Well, who benefits from this hit piece right here on China? It's the ruling financial elite. It's America, because these people are trying to make you believe the lie instead of you believing what you see, feel, taste, hear, smell, swallow, and live in, right? Listen to what it says. Nathan Sheets, a global chief economist at Citi, cited China's soaring debt levels. Stop right there. Stop right there. As we've seen, when they do this, this is the talking point of the Western elite, the Western world. China's soaring debt level. Now, as Carl Zha, let's see if he's in the booth. I can't see it. Oh, he's in the booth. I gotta bring him in. Because listen. I'm telling you something. I'm gonna bring Carl in the booth. But isn't it ironic? He comes in the booth at the time that we're talking about the lies that they put on China's economy. So I'm gonna bring him in the booth right now. My guy Carl is in the booth. How's it going today, Carl?
Hey, Rashid, how's it going? Sorry, I messed up the time. I thought it was like 9 o'clock my time. I thought I had plenty of time. I just realized the stream started a half hour ago. Sorry about that.
It's all good, Carl. I'm glad you're in, and you came in at the right time, though, Carl, because I'm reading this article, and I'm saying, first of all, they mistelling the people that self-preservation is the first law of nature. So even if China had incurred all of these huge debts, before China collapses upon itself, it would call in the debt that the Europeans and the US owed to them. And you see what I'm saying? But nobody ever adds this into their equation when they talk about Chinese debt. And before you comment, I want you to hear the first part of this writing by somebody from Citibank. So it says right here, the title of the article is China Dealt Crushing Blow as Economy May Never Overtake US. And then it says, China may never surpass the U.S. to become the world's largest economy, a leading investment bank has claimed. Nathan Sheets, a global chief economist at Citi, cited China's soaring debt levels, its aging population, and its property crisis as factors that would hinder it from knocking America off the top spot. Now, what have you to say about that? Because I know you have something to say about that.
They write this kind of article like every 2 years. I mean, they've been writing this kind of article for the last 10 years. I mean, before that, they instead of saying China is not going to overtake US, it would just say, oh, China will collapse. Gordon Chan has been selling this shit since like 2001. I mean, like literally 2 decades ago. And the thing is, when they talk about debt, they don't tell you there's good debt and there's bad debt. What is good debt? If you get a debt to finance your education, to build infrastructure, build bridges, build highways, build high-speed rail, build airports, build ports, those debts in the long term, you gain it back by increased economic activity and increased economic integration. But there's bad debt. Bad debts are consumer debts. When you take a loan to buy big screen TV, to buy to buy a big car, to buy a big house. I mean, a house you can live in, okay. But to buy a luxury car, to buy like a luxury, I don't know, Gucci bag or something. Those debts you have to work your ass off to pay back. So this is a difference. Like Chinese are taking on debts to build amazing infrastructure in their country. They covered the entire China with crisscrossing with high-speed rails, which United States will never see. and yet they're complaining, at the same time, they also complain about, oh, China's high-speed rail is not profitable, blah, 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 because they're taking a lot of debt. First of all, the whole point of public infrastructure and public transportation is to serve the public. The U.S. mentality is if you don't make a buck, it's a failure. If somebody at the Wall Street is not making a buck out of it, this is a failure. So this is a fundamental difference between United States and China. In U.S. we have a country run by Wall Street types. So when they look at China through the Wall Street lens, oh, it's all out of whack. They're not going to make money from this. They're taking a lot of debt. But guess what? Year after year, Chinese people are eating better. They're living better. They have more stuff. They're sending their children to be educated abroad. They're traveling. Hundreds of millions of Chinese tourists are traveling around the world. I mean, these are visible changes. People can go visit China today. China is wide open for foreign tourists nowadays. You can visit China today and see the physical changes, see this like ultra modern cities. You can ride the high speed rail, but these pundits will keep on telling you, China is going to collapse. China is, it's never going to be as good as United States. This is just copium, man. And the more the U.S. falls behind, the more of these kind of copiums get produced because people need that to convince themselves, now U.S. is not doing too bad. After all, China is collapsing. They've been selling that stories for the last 30 years. While China continued to rise.
They keep regurgitating this part that the Chinese economy may not surpass the U.S. economy when we have all anecdotal evidence that it surpassed the United States in purchasing power parity in 2014, 2015.
And Mr. Putin pointed that
Yes.
out in his
Yes.
Tucker Carlson
Yes.
interview. When Tucker Carlson was bringing China as a boogeyman, they're like, aren't you just exchanging one colonial power for a more less sentimental, less forgiving colonial power? First of all, nobody in the world think of United States as a sentimental or forgiving colonial power. That's just bullshit. Nobody buys that shit outside of the U.S. borders, and it's a pure projection to say China is a colonial power, and much less like is not as sentimental and and unforgiving as United States. I mean, that's just BS. And Putin set him straight. He said, look, Russia and China are neighbors. We have been living with each other for centuries. We know how to deal with each other. And the fact that the BRICS is rising, it's a fact. It's like the sun is rising in the east. You either learn how to deal with it or you don't. That this is a problem. And Putin was very good calling out when Tucker Carlson said, well, do you think would make a difference if there's a different set of leadership in Washington? And Putin said, look, the problem is the mentality of U.S. hegemony and its need for the dominance over the world. If you don't get rid of that mindset from the U.S., the political elite, nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to change. And he listed examples when he had dealing with Clinton, he had dealing with Bush, and it's the same. And at the end of the day, he will go to Clinton for something, go to Bush for something. They're like, oh, okay, that's reasonable. Let me check with my people. And then later they always come back and say, sorry, can't do it. So it almost seems like U.S. president are not even the ones calling the shot, which we know they don't. We have Biden here, who is literally have dementia, which is confirmed by the Justice Department leaks, and so anybody can be president of the United States. You can have a pickle jar as the president. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The deep state is running things, and the problem with the deep state is they have this bug of U.S. hegemony in their head. Everything must be done to justify the U.S. hegemony over the world, and like Putin correctly pointed out, as long as that mentality is not going away, you're gonna end up with the same shit. And this is why we have stupid Copian articles like this about China not surpassing the United States. What terms? I mean, like, just freaking travel to China. You travel, you're gonna see ultra modern cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and you don't see the streets getting clogged up by homeless people like the way it is in the United States, because in China, they actually take care of their people. They have people like family structures. If they have families who taking care of they don't let the people who have problems wandering around the street. That the family take care of them. They don't just abandon them. And in the U.S., instead what we do is like, oh, we found there was a news where they found the homeless dug into some a riverbank, and they dig into a hole. So what do? They evict them. So these homeless people trying to form a community on their own with no help from their community, from the government. What you do, of course, you kick them out again. and this is what happened in the United States. And somehow they say, no, China is not working. Don't worry. United States may be bad, but China is also bad, so you shouldn't feel too bad about yourself. This is what really these kind of newspaper articles are all about. It's just hopium and copium.
Well, Carl, do they believe that people will continue to buy this propaganda that they continue to put out? Because common sense tells us, how can China be collapsing when the World Bank and the IMF stated that China was the only nation with positive growth? China had become the center of the global economy. It is the center of trade. Now, it's pretty much the largest trade partner to almost every country on the planet now. It is the largest exporter, like we often say, the largest importer. And on top of that, I can't let this point slide because this is a major point, because they always try to use, well, it's a communist nation, it's this, but they implemented a plan and they removed 850 million people from poverty and moved them to the middle class. That's the entire population of America and Europe together. So, I mean, what do you have to say about that?
Well, Rashid, we don't do that kind of things here in the United States. This is a U.S. government. I forgot which movie it is. I was in Clockwork Orange or something. That in the end, the character played by what's that guy's name? He said, "Sorry, this is you forget. This is a United States government. We don't do that kind of thing." I mean, which is true. They in here, U.S. The poverty alleviation plan is. Join the military. Join the military. We'll get you out of poverty. Maybe. I mean, that's the deal we're ending up with. But and also they keep on the fact that all they in their mind, they talk about, China may not surpass the United States. China may not, because in their mind the most important thing is really the U.S. must remain number one for their world to function smoothly, right? I mean, it's still that same mentality of hegemony. But it's a very odd thing in the United States. It's because the mainstream media is being increasingly distrusted. I mean, people are seeing through a lot of bullshit in terms of domestic politics, and people are seeing through a lot of bullshit in some of the foreign policy. For example, the horrible atrocity being committed on Gaza. And some of these shenanigans U.S. is pulling in Latin America and Africa. But somehow when it comes to China, a lot of people just swallow the line, hook, and sinker of all the State Department propaganda. It's like, anybody posts like a remotely positive, fun video about China. And you're going to have people saying, oh, what about this non-existent Xinjiang genocide, right? What about the Chinese human rights violations and stuff? It's like, imagine if anybody just posts anything about United States and people question about the genocide and the real genocide that's been committed right now in Gaza and the past genocide committed on Native Americans. Nobody does that. So I'm thinking, why do people do that? It's again to justify their superiority to Chinese and China, because that's the only thing they have left nowadays. The only thing, because if you're not part of the Wall Street elite, who is literally laughing to the bank, what do the common people have left? They can only climb to this vestige feelings of, oh yeah, we're still somehow number one. We're still like superior to the people in the global South. We're still at least we're still superior to the Chinese people. I think that's why these kind of Hopian and Copians still have a large market in United States. What do you think, Rashid?
Well, Carl, we see America and NATO together floundering and faltering in the Ukrainian situation. And Russia is outproducing the entirety of the whole Western military industrial complex by itself, right? And as Vladimir Putin says, that Russia has only started to do what they're going to do, and they've only used roughly 10% of their capabilities. So we see that, and then we see the stuff that's going on, the buildup and the for war in the Middle East. Again, America's involved again. And she's saying that now she's getting ready to pivot to Asia for a war with China. And she is now deploying long strike missiles to Guam and her her stealth bombers and her bomber planes to Guam and the surrounding areas. How is China taking this, especially at a time when there's talk that America may be covertly sending Marines to Chinese Taipei?
Yeah, actually, U.S. Army just deployed Green Berets, the special forces, to Kinmen Island, just like literally 3 to 5 kilometers from the mainland Chinese coast. People can look up Kinmen Islands on the world map and see how close it is to the mainland Chinese coast. It's like literally, it's if you're, I kind of feel sorry for these Green Berets. What are they gonna do? They're just gonna be like drinking beer and looking at the amazing Chinese cityscape across the water, and which they cannot go because they're stuck on this island as per U.S. directive. But like this is all distraction. Right now, U.S. can meaningfully pivot to Asia. This is a distraction from the current atrocities that's happening in Gaza, the U.S. impotence in face of Ansar Allah blockade in the Red Sea. I mean, look what's happening in Yemen. Yemen now is a major world naval power because they're redirecting 11% of the world shipping around the Cape of Africa to go around Africa because they cannot go through Red Sea. But Chinese and Russian shipping has no problem. Chinese and you had that British ship that recently was attacked. They tried to mask themselves as Chinese in their call sign that said, "We are a Chinese-owned ship." Of course, the answer Allah had better intelligence, so they hit them. Yeah. But the fact is that it's even reported that of course in the mainstream media like Bloomberg, they say, "Oh, China enjoys this unfair advantage. The Chinese shipping companies enjoy a huge discount on the shipping insurance through Red Sea." Well, duh, don't aid genocide, man. It's very simple. Do not aid genocide in Gaza. Then you can go through the Red Sea. Just follow example of China. Why can't you do that? It's as simple as that. Like the Ansar Allah forces in Yemen have made it very clear. We're doing this blockade to support Gaza. The people, and especially all these U.S. ships that's going to ship ammunitions and weapons to Israel, they're not going to pass. And it's really that simple. Right now, I mean, the mean is China is basically sitting doing nothing and win, right? But which the opposite of that is United States is doing all these somersault, doing all these mental gymnastics to justify the empire and failing everywhere. Like they can't meaningfully deploy asset right now to the Chinese coast because they're already deeply involved in Ukraine. They're deeply involved in Middle East. They cannot look away from Middle East as much as they may not want to be dragged into that conflict. But like I say, Israel is a golden boy. Israel takes top priority. Israel takes priority over even United States. Even takes priority over the domestic affair of United States. They have to go defend Israel no matter what. So that means all the resources right now is going to go funnel to Israel. It's going to go into the ineffectual U.S. operation against Yemen, which is completely nuts because they have already waged a proxy war on Yemen for 10 years since 2014. When the Yemen civil war started, U.S. have helped Saudi Arabia, UAE, etc., to blockade and starve the Yemeni population. And the Yemeni forces did not bend. And they're not going to bend just because U.S. now is dropping a couple bombs in Yemeni capital. They without boots in the ground, there's nothing U.S. can fundamentally do to lift the blockade on Red Sea. And even with, U.S. does not have the stomach for boots on the ground in Yemen, which would be a really stupid thing to do. So all they can do is there was a question when Joe Biden was asked, say, is the U.S. bombing on Yemen, is that helping with the situation? Is that helping lifting the blockade? And guess what he said? He said, well, no, it hasn't helped yet, but we will still keep bombing them. So literally, he's admitting the strategy is not working, but they're gonna keep doing it for the appearances, just to keep the appearances of well, U.S. is still number one, still is a world policeman. Very ineffective one, but we're gonna keep doing what we're doing, which is completely failing at the moment.
I want to address something in the chat. MZ says, Chris, perhaps U.S. is anticipating the reawakening of Japan. Now, this is somebody told me this decades ago, and they said that they foresaw the rise of China. They foresaw it. They were telling me about the rise of China way back then, and long before Xi Jinping became president, they were telling me about China would rise, and they said that. When I said, what about Japan? They told me this. Do you actually believe that the Japanese has forgotten that America dropped not one, but two nuclear bombs on them? And I was like, no, they didn't. And he says that the guy says, if war breaks out between the United States and Japan, when China starts digging in the backside of the United States, all of those occupied countries, when they see America at her weakened position, they're going to all turn, because it'll be Asia for Asia, and all of them are going to fight on the same side. Asia is going to run America out of there, because the only way she knows how is on her terms and dictates to everybody else. And that's what was told to me. And I've been watching everything that the person told me, and everything that they told me geopolitically and economically, I've seen manifest. So that's what I'm saying. What have you to say about this? Especially, I think America wants to use like South Korea and Japan and the Philippines as a battering ram, and specifically Japan, because they want to hem in China's naval forces with those two island chains or whatever.
Well, there's a couple reasons why U.S. is increasingly depending on its alliances with Japan, South Korea, and Philippines, etc. One reason is just a geography, because this is what the U.S. called the first island chain. This dates from the Cold War, when U.S. wanted to blockade Soviet Union and China. So they have the so-called first island chain that runs through Japan, through Okinawa, down to Taiwan, Philippines, and Southeast Asia, to keep the communist power hemmed in. And now it's been repurposed and repositioned against the rise of China. But another factor is that United States by itself, it can no longer contain China. Just look at the industrial output. I saw a chart that somebody posted. It showed that China, at the present, it accounts for 35% of the industrial output of the world. And you need to add United States, you need to add Japan, you need to add India, you need to add Germany, you need to add Italy, UK, add all the EU countries combined, and then you only make 34%. So you can't even with all that NATO power combined, you are not matching the industrial might of China. So this is why U.S. is very busy trying to construct alliance against China, because even the U.S. decision makers knew that U.S. alone do not have the industrial power to contain China. It needs to corral together all its vassal states together to form a anti-China containment strategy. But I think your friend is onto something. The thing is, a lot of these U.S. vassal states, there are U.S. vassal states because they have been cowed and have been subjugated, and they had no choice. I mean, look at example of Germany and Japan. They still have U.S. military on their soil after 80 years, and any Japanese prime minister that dares to say no to United States, they don't last long in the office. They these are countries that don't have true sovereignty. But however, once the U.S. hegemony start weakening, you're gonna see rats abandoning ship, right? I mean, it's gonna happen fairly quickly. And as for the specific example of Japan, it's a little bit complicated because Japan's still scared of China. They're scared of the rise of China because they know what they did, what their grandpa did in China in World War II. So they're definitely afraid that China is going to take revenge. This is one thing that why they're clinging on to the U.S. Japan alliance, because they thought, okay, at least we don't like the U.S. nuked us, but maybe U.S. can save our ass from China. That is their mentality, right? But at certain point when you can't no longer be denied that the shift balance of power is decidedly in China's favor, and not just China, but the whole BRICS. As Putin pointed out, BRICS is already larger than G7 in
Mhm.
terms of its economy, in the power purchase parity terms, and it's set to grow. It's only set to grow. China, okay, remember when all these talk about China collapsing, China's economy slowing down. United States were reported like 2.5% growth, and all the newspapers like, wow, we achieved a Goldilocks economy, spectacular growth. Biden have delivered, and what's China's growth at the same time? 5.3%. China's growth is literally doubled the growth of U.S. economy, but they're saying, "Oh, China is slowing down. China is collapsing. It's over for China. China will never catch up." I mean, okay, like I know people in United States are not good at math, but if you're growing at 2% and the other economy growing at 5%, at double your growth rate, at some point those exponential growth means they're going to overtake you, even in the nominal dollar terms. I mean, China already overtook United States in PPP terms, but the nominal dollar terms, it doesn't really mean much. But even in the nominal dollar terms, China will eventually overtake United States, because there's the dollar hegemony is already crumbling, as we see. There's a de-dollarization trend all over the world. This is one of the last pillar of the U.S. empire, which U.S. has stupidly sabotaged by leveraging it as a financial weapon against the world. Just like Putin pointed out in the interview with Tucker Carlson, it was a grave mistake for U.S. try to use its dominance of the world finance as a weapon, so it's geopolitical weapon. It had backfired spectacularly. Now, Russia and China do their business in ruble and yuan, and the Gulf countries, the oil producers, are talking about selling their oil in yuan. So what does that left U.S. dollar? I mean, Marco Rubio can freak out all he wants. There's not fundamentally, if U.S. keep on going this path,
Mm.
dollar will keep the de-dollarization trend will just keep on accelerating, and people will say, well, dollar is still the world's reserve currency, blah blah blah. Yes, until it's not, and things can happen very very quickly, just like the U.S. hegemony itself. It's like the dam on the river. Once that dam start breaking, things gonna happen very very
Mhm.
fast.
Yep. Before we have a couple comments, well, we have a lot of comments in the stream, but I don't know, Kevin, if you're referring to me when you say that red pill is full commie. I think, let me see, let me scroll up. It says red pill full commie. I don't, and then you came back and you said red pill full commie. I don't know if you're talking, but if you are, make that clear so I can address you. Okay, I don't want to go address this until you make that clear. What you're trying to say and who you're conveying it to. Okay, and then I'll come back to that. Now, this is something to you, Carl. This is from James Alex. I'm gonna highlight it on the screen, and you can address this.
How is a huge loss of evergreen country garden affecting economy in China? So Chinese economy is slowing down compared a couple of years ago, and one of the reason for that, it is the shift away from the real estate development, because for many years, a lot of the Chinese economic growth was driven by the real estate development. But at certain point, it's not sustainable. You can build houses and say, oh, that's part of the GDP growth, and it's all good. But eventually, housing is for people to live in. It's not for speculative investment. We've seen what happened with the subprime crisis in 2007, 2008 that brought down the whole world economy. So what actually is happening in China is healthy house cleaning. China need to shift the investment away from the real estate sector to the real productive sector of manufacturing, particularly high-tech manufacturing like semiconductors and electric vehicles, which China is doing. So during this transition process, yes, there will be hiccups. A lot of people in the real estate developers, a lot of the real estate agent might lose their job. It's true. So it's not it. The thing with the reporting, the Western media reporting on China is they focus on something negative and they blow it up all way out of proportions. Like I like to compare to China as this elephant, right? Everyone knows the stories of the blind man filling up the elephant. Like we're all basically essentially blind men who are trying to figure out what this elephant is like. But what the Western media is doing is zooming on the elephant's ass, and that's the only thing you see. They only show you the words on the elephant's ass, and tell you this is China. This represents the entirety of China. So China is not perfect. China is not utopia. China just has problems, just like any other countries in the world. You also experiencing economic problems like rebalancing, which is going on right now. But that is not the whole picture. The whole picture is China is shifting away from the real estate driven development for the past several decades and shifting more into high-end manufacturing. This is why you are seeing people in Germany are panicking right now, because for decades China has been importing high-end machine tools from Germany, but now China is making those high-end machine tools themselves. And on top of that, China is making electric vehicles for export, which is one of the main pillars of the German economy. And on top of that, the German didn't do themselves any good by getting themselves cut off on the cheap Russian gas. So this is why the much bigger picture is that in the coming decades there will be, instead of Chinese investment into more unproductive sectors as real estate, and particularly real estate speculation, those funds are now from now on will be more productively deployed into high-end high-tech manufacturing, chip manufacturing, solar, sustainable energy development, electric vehicle, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's healthy for the long run. In the short term, there's going to be some hiccups in the Chinese economy for sure, but it's healthy for mid-term and long-term development. That's my answer.
And for Kevin, thank you for clarifying what you were talking about. I really appreciate you clarifying that. Thank you so much. Now, two things before I go to Mehdi's, because I know Mehdi wants to ask you something about what's going on with Russia.
Hold on that thought for 1 second. I'm going to turn on my AC because right now the sun is up. I'm sweating bullets.
Okay.
Just 1 minute.
Okay. So everybody listen. We're going to get to you. Mehdi, I'm going to get to you, my guy. I'm going to get to you. It's two things I wanted to bring up right beforehand, and then I'll get to you, Mehdi. I mean, I'll get to you. So, again, hey, we have about 80-some people in the... How many? Let me see. We have... Oh, it says right here on my chat thing, 116. We have 116 people in the... that are watching live right now. 116 people. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and share. We really, really, really appreciate that. Okay. So, because my number is different from your number on your screen. It's telling me
Okay, sorry
117
about that.
are watching now. So, two things. One thing I want you to talk about, because they always talk about China's debt problem, and as to say that China is in a worse economic position than the U.S. or the Western nations. But I want you to address that about the domestic debt, and also when we talked about how America is moving to position herself around China, why doesn't anybody talk about Jeju Island, the South Korean island that's close to China, that they want to make a naval facility that's literally a rock throw across to the mainland China? So those two things, could you address those two?
Yeah, so people, I talk about bad debts and good debt, but there's also the debt, the domestic debt, which is the debt you owe to yourself, and the debt you owe to foreigners, right? So,
Mhm.
so in China, mostly it's a debt that they owe to the Chinese government, owe to the Chinese people. It's mostly domestic debt, right? And unlike United States, which depends on foreigners to continually buy treasury bills to finance an astronomical what is it now, $33 trillion debt that U.S. accrue. Um, China has a very healthy trade balance. I mean, they have a they enjoy a trade surplus with the world, mostly with the West. China now is actually running a trade deficit with the global South countries because China is
Mhm.
importing a lot of raw materials from the global South countries, then exporting then process them into manufacturing goods and send to the so-called developed economy like Europe and US. So China enjoys a trade surplus with US and Europe, but a trade deficit with countries in like Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America, etc. Right, because China is importing from these parts. So China is not having there's like the debt crisis that they do talk about is they're talking about a lot of the Chinese local government. They in the past they took on a lot of debt to finance infrastructure project, right? And again, people forget Chinese government at the end of the day they control all the financial sector. Unlike United States, the
Mhm.
financial sector controls the government. The Wall Street controls the government. In China, the Chinese government controls the finances. So
Mhm.
for them, they can just tell the Bank of China to shuffle the debt around, right? I mean, they can do that. They can do that because Bank of China they can print RMB. They can so they have the power to keep the debt level um, under the debt situation under control. It's never gonna like just blow up spectacularly because the central government can always step in and say, okay, well like let's restructure the debt. This has happened before. This has happened many times before. So this is not really the pressing issue that the Western media is making it out to be. Um, there was okay. The second part of the question, I believe you're talking about U.S. militarizing the zones all around China. It's true. U.S. has been doing that. I mean, pretty much forever. If you think about it, back during Vietnam War, South China Sea was essentially American lake, right? U.S. had Air Force base, Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines. They had the Subic Bay as a naval base, and they have the naval base in South Vietnam, and then they have these what they call the Yankee stations, which is a permanent presence of U.S. aircraft carrier floating in the South China Sea. This was during the Vietnam War. So if you compare today to like the 1960s, 1970s, U.S.'s power is actually in retrenchment, right? Now U.S. what they're trying to do, they're trying to come back to the Philippines. because U.S. got kicked out of the Philippines after the Cold War. The Philippine Parliament voted to not to extend the lease on the Clark Air Base and the Subic Bay Naval Base. So now they're trying to use the China threat as a backdoor to get back to the Philippines, and same thing in Korea, Japan, and in Taiwan. And during Cold War, U.S. during the Vietnam War, 60,000 U.S. troops rotated through Taiwan, and U.S. actually posted nuclear tipped missiles on Taiwan, pointing at mainland China during the Cold War, and that was withdrawn after 1970s, after Nixon visited China as part of the deal with China to normalize ties. Now U.S. is trying to walk back. U.S. is trying to bring us back to the Cold War scenario, but they're doing a very sneaky, small scale, like sending like a couple Green Berets to the Kinmen Islands. Like what is that going to do? That's not going to do anything. Those Green Berets are not going to stop any serious PLA landing. The only reason they're there is to serve up as what they call tripwire, which means, oh, look, they got Americans hostage, they capture Americans or they killed Americans, so we must enter the war. So that's the whole point. It's called the tripwire strategy. They put these American presence in Korea, for example. So like they're actually, the American presence in Korea is not enough to stop DPRK push onto Seoul, but just enough to harass the locals. But their whole purpose is to serve up a so-called tripwire. If a war breaks out, that is the U.S. excuse to fully enter the war, and U.S. has been doing this for decades around China's periphery. Same thing goes with a Marine base in Okinawa, for example. And now they're trying to, militarize more parts of. But the bigger picture, though, is that U.S. empire is overstretched.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing this thing in Ukraine. It's doing this thing in Gaza, in Yemen, and just. And you see what happened when they claim they're gonna hit back on Iran, and they had that leak to Al Jazeera Arabic. They say basically U.S. Officials send a notice to their Iranian counterpart and say, look, we have to do so. We have to bomb your targets, because we have to look strong. But please do not retaliate. Because we don't really want to escalate this into a full-scale war. We're just doing this for show. We need to do this to look strong. And of course, Iran said no. No, you're not. We're not going to agree to anything. And so in the end, what did the U.S. do? They strike targets inside Syria and Iraq. All the U.S. punching bags, because U.S. still had military presence in the U.S. still militarily occupies part of Syria and Iraq, and so that's why they're doing that. But again, they do not have the assets to do a serious confrontation with China right now. I mean, what they can do is they can create a panic. They can create some fear mongering in the U.S. media to make it so, like there's tension in South China Sea, there's tension in Taiwan, to distract from the fact that U.S. is impotent to stop the Ansar Allah blockade of Red Sea. United States is supposed to hyperpower, the global hegemon. They can't even guarantee their own defense department. The U.S. Defense Department's commissioned ships from traveling to the Red Sea, despite their bombing campaigns. So I mean, like it's ridiculous to think they can. And China has been very patient. China has been very restrained in the response to the continued U.S. provocation on its border. But you know what China is going to do? China is going to crank up incremental exercises around Taiwan, around the disputed Diaoyu Island with Japan, because guess what? What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Mhm.
China is going to carry out freedom of navigation patrol with Russia through the Sea of Japan. They're going to do that freedom of navigation patrol around Alaska, and again, this is just to show the U.S. Hey, we know your game. We
Mm.
can play the same game too,
Mhm.
and this is just a, but you really beyond this kind of game of chicken stuff that U.S. can pull up in East Asia, they don't have much dry powder at this moment. You know, all the dry powder is going to Israel. It's going to support the Golden Boy.
You're just about right on that. Everybody, listen. My analytics is telling me, forget what you're saying on your screen. My analytics are telling me that there's 142 people watching live. Please hit the like button. We have 35 likes. I know you can do better than that. Carl is giving us his time, his thoughts, and everything else. Show him some respect or whatever. Now, Carl, Mehdi he says freezing Russian. Let me highlight this. Freezing Russian assets was the most idiotic thing they could have done. It shows you they never considered the repercussions because they assumed they would win. Carl, I actually believe that they considered repercussions. They just brushed them to the side because that's what they always do. They think that they are bigger than the repercussions.
Yeah, I mean, this is a hubris talking, right? Like John McCain said, Russia is just a glorified parking lot with nuclear weapons, which is completely bogus. I visited Russia. I mean, that must be like Moscow must be the most amazing gas station in the world. It's beautiful, and then the thing is because they're hubris, they thought, oh, we'll just hit them with all we got. We have we have them by the balls because they need to rely on the US dollar for transaction. And guess what happened afterwards in 2022? In 2022, Russia actually surpassed Germany as Europe's largest economy,
Mhm.
despite the sanctions. Because guess what? At the end of the day, dollar is just a piece of paper. Everybody needs oil and gas. If people need to burn natural gas to survive the winter, and the problem, this is which expose the difference between the fiat currency and real value of commodities that's actually needed by people. So Russia is sitting in a good position. They are sitting on tons of natural resources that's desired by the rest of the world, and now they turn to China because they're forced to turn to China. The thing is, I have seen many Russian observers have said after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia, like much of the Eastern Bloc countries, was basically turned into an economic colony by the West. It's
Right.
got flooded by the Western brands, Western products, and now this is by decree from Washington. They're cut off. They're cut off, and then they realize it's not the end of the world. This actually helped them to reindustrialize. Now the
Mhm.
Russian domestic industry has a real chance to produce the goods that Russian people want. And also for everything else, they just can buy from China. Because China already made goods for the world. I mean, they're not really the only thing that are getting cut off is the overpriced Western. Because what are the Western brands product? They're also made in China. They just slap with this Western brand label so they can sell you at a premium, and that's what it is. And so, not we so I totally agree with Mitty. The use of financial sanction against Russia, it's an alarm bell to a lot of the people in the rest of the world outside the so-called collective West. And the reason people adopt, say, U.S. dollar is because okay, it's a stable, relatively stable currency. It's accepted everywhere. But now you're telling me what? You can just take my money away from the bank? My money is not going to be safe if I deposit it in the bank in US dollars? Well, then, of course, I'll take my money back. and this is exactly what happened. This is why US dollar is increasingly losing its value as a world reserve currency, because people realize, okay, there's a danger. The US dollar is in fact not a safe currency because they can take away your money. and that's just self-preservation, biological self-preservation. Don't put your money all in US dollars. So this is the people they drink their own Kool-Aid, right? They start believing their own propaganda. They really believe, okay, the world cannot survive without us, without US hegemony, without the US dollar. And then they wake up and realize, oh crap, that's that's all a construction. In fact, people don't need dollars, and people do need gas. People do need oil, but maybe they don't need your US dollars.
Yeah. Now, Flying Crocodile 46 says, salute to all. No effing notifications from PooTube again. Stop. Well, let me say this, and it'll take away from the subject matter at hand, what we're talking about, but we'll come right back to it. They take my videos out of rotation. They take me out of the search engine. And like you just heard me, let me look on my screen right now so you guys can check this out for yourself. It says right now we have 158 people watching live. Now, after this show is over, they'll say 4 views or 3 views, but I'm looking at it right now. All right. And then you'll see all the people in the chat and they'll say 2 or 3 views. But I want to read something to you guys. This is what Larry Johnson said about this platform right here. It's on Sonar 21. And he put it out there on February 6th. And the reason one of the reasons he did it is because after the interview that I had with him, he noticed that the views weren't matching up to, what it's supposed to have been. All right. And this is what he says right here, because he had 2 interviews that day. And he says, the title of it is 2 new podcasts, Anya K and Rashid plus the mouse that roared. And in this, I'm going to just read the first paragraph and a half or whatever, just to let you hear what he says about this platform. One of the beautiful things about the internet is that it opens up the world to a variety of voices. Anya K and Rashid Muhammad are 2 excellent examples of this. Anya is a smart lady who currently lives in Poland, and Rashid is a great American living in St. Louis. He didn't want to tell you exactly where I was at, so he used St. Louis, okay? But it says the only flaw that both have is that they think I'm worth talking to and regularly give me an opportunity to discuss the latest going on in Ukraine and the Middle East. Anya invited Andrei Martyanov and me to do a deep dive on Ukraine. I love being able to have a discussion with Andrei. I have learned a lot from him. His book should be more must reading at all U.S. military academies. Now, this is what he had to say about this platform here, okay? So, because this is very important. And it'll show you that everybody recognizes this platform is supposed to grow, but we know that YouTube continues to take my subscribers. He says, Rashid is my brother from another mother. He has a very small audience. Frankly, he merits having at least 100,000 subscribers, right? He said, Rashid is a smart man who is anything but parochial, okay? So everybody recognizes the games that they play, so don't sweat it. We're going to keep, as long as we get the truth out, it doesn't matter if they suppress the numbers. You'll get it. Other people will get it. I'm not concerned with the numbers. They can keep me. They could have put me at 200. It doesn't matter, because I'm talking to Carl. I talk to other people, and all our goal is to try to inform you of the reality of what's going on. And that's what. So Carl. And yours should be, especially yours should be over 100,000, Carl. I'm just going to be real about it, because I listen to you and I see your stuff. And what do you think about, when you see other people and they're 200-300, and Carl, the work that you do should merit you being over 100,000 subscribers?
Well, YouTube is doing a lot of funky stuff with their AI algorithm right now. I see exactly, what you're talking about. Right now, our talk, sometimes I cut them into smaller segments and post on my YouTube channel.
Mhm.
As soon as so every time the AI gotta run their check to determine whether it's for the ad suitability. I notice anytime we talk about Israel, Palestine, automatically it says it's not suitable for advertisers. So I had to manually appeal, request a human review, and thankfully, so far, I get the human reviewers have always passed it. But now the AI, like their default algorithm is set to suppressing dissent on Israel and Palestine. Anytime you mention Gaza, that
Mhm.
I have to pass through the AI check. They always say, "Oh, sorry, it's not suitable for advertiser." And
Mhm.
and it's not that I care for like that $10, $25 YouTube revenue, but it's the fact that the UI algorithm won't push it if it's not ads enabled, because that's how YouTube make money. They make money from the advertisement, and if your video is demonetized, then your YouTube AI has no incentive to push it out to the viewers. So that's how they artificially suppress your viewership.
Mhm.
Um, this is very blatantly obvious, and it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate, which really goes to which is even make it double ironic. Just so last week CNN did a segment on China saying China censors allow anti-Semitic comments on the internet, and and he was like, and even in the segment they had one Zionist guy living in China. He said, "Oh, before October 7th, actually, China is quite friendly to the Jewish people. But after I'm like, wait, what happened? Tell me what happened that switched the public opinion. I mean, could it be the massive atrocity Israel is committing on the people of Gaza that people don't like? I mean, did that even enter? The problem is right now they equate any criticism of Israel, any support for Palestine with anti-Semitism, which is completely bogus. They're calling out Jewish Voice for Peace as an anti-Semitic organization. I mean, it's we live in a freaking bizarre world, and they use every freaking like this media manipulation to suppressing domestic dissent. They don't want us to even talk about it because they know their policy is indefensible. So they just don't want you to talk about it. That's why, like, you have those. I saw another video. I think it was Biden and Kamala Harris campaign. They're filtering out people who are visibly Muslim from attending. Like they're blocking out people with hijab from attending the talks with Kamala Harris and Biden. It's like they know, because they know what they're doing is indefensible. So you know what? Okay, we don't want you to talk about it. We don't want you to be even present. We don't want you to be visible. So we can pretend that there's no problem. But guess what? That's not going to help them when the election comes around. They're still going to lose. I mean, there's no way they're going to get the Muslim vote in Michigan. No freaking way, man. And guess what? When they do lose, and I have a feeling that there's a realistic chance they might lose the election in November. And all the Democrats, the DNC establishment, are probably going to blame the Muslims. They're going to blame the black people. They're going to blame the Chinese, and they're going to blame the Russians. That's all they do. It's like the go-to scapegoat. It's anything but their own problem. It's not their own actions, supporting Israel no matter what, that's causing the election. You have to be you guys, you saboteurs, you Putin stooges, and you're like the China apologists. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy, man. It's crazy world we live in.
Carl, to me, it's like right now we have 100 on my dash. It's 167 people watching. I want you to do, whenever you get a chance, come back after the show when it's over and watch how many views. It'll say 4 views or 2 views, and I'm like, are you serious?
It happens, yeah. It happens on my videos too. For some reason, they're not counting the number of viewers during the live stream anymore. Like this gets reset to 0 after the live stream is over. Yeah, I don't know why they do that, but but even more, I even more insidious is their like AI algorithm just automatically flag you as ads unfriendly if you talk about Palestine. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, Carl, someone put, and I know I'm looking for it right now, but somebody put in here. So, what would it take for China to act more aggressively against the United States? And I'm paraphrasing because I remember that point specifically, but the chat is going so fast I can't scroll back up to it. So, could you answer that part of their question? I know it was a two-part question.
Right, right. So first, for China actually is not looking for a confrontation with the U.S. Unlike the U.S. is actively trying to goad China into a confrontation. But China is not looking for a confrontation with the United States for a simple reason that time is on China's side. China is continuing to grow every day, every month, every year. Chinese economy keep on growing bigger and bigger, and its relative strength vis-a-vis United States continue to grow. The gap between China and United States. So China is not in a hurry to press on the issue on a military, especially a military, a hot confrontation with United States, because both sides are nuclear weapons. Anything can easily get out of the control and escalate into potentially even a nuclear exchange, which nobody wants. And the other side, I understand why a lot of people are getting kind of like impatient with, China. You have all these power. Why don't you use it? Why don't you use it to counter U.S., etc. We have to understand something. We cannot rely on China to fight our battle, right? We have to, rely on ourselves to take the country back from the Wall Street elite. This United States, you got to own it. You got to own it, and the fact that is the country of U.S. is totally hijacked by the Wall Streets, by the tycoons and all the oligarchs. It's up to us to take the country back. It's not, you can't expect, you could just sit here and wait for the helping hand from China or Russia or anybody. The fact that China and Russia exist and countering U.S. hegemony is good. There's platforms that help to expose the U.S. hypocrisy. Like when even Tucker, first of all, I don't like Tucker Carlson, but the Tucker Carlson interview, but the Tucker Carlson interview with Putin, which thankfully Tucker did not interrupt Putin too much when Putin is talking. That gives a platform for Putin to share to articulate his thoughts to 200 million viewers who view the segment. And I think that Putin did a great job and to expose the U.S. hypocrisy. So but this is kind of, yes, that is helping. The fact that Russia and China exist, the fact that there are alternative channels to expose the U.S. But ultimately, the hard work to actually to get rid of all these bloodsuckers in the Wall Street, the hard work we have to do ourselves. We cannot rely on China or Russia. This is my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm. And so for everybody that's looking, I just want to show you something right here. That's how many people are looking live right here. I just took a screenshot of it. 100 well, actually it's 180 now looking live. So if you ever have the problem when you come back after and it says 2 views or something, we know that's not real. But Carl, in closing, where do you see this thing going in the Middle East, especially with the build-up, the constant provocations between the United States, with the United States and Great Britain against Iran, and the escalation of violence in Palestine?
Yeah, I right now, U.S. won't be able to do much about the Red Sea blockade. Like I said, the Yemeni people will not bend. The Yemeni forces, they have suffered through 10 years of proxy war of starvation. Um, what's a couple more bombs? They're not gonna yield to the U.S. pressure, and the U.S. will just looking increasingly foolish and impotent. This is the Red Sea blockade is really a Suez Canal crisis moment for the United States. For the people who may not remember what happened in the 1950s, is when the colonial power of Great Britain and France, they're trying to reassert themselves to mobilize against Nasser's nationalization of Suez Canal, and at that point, both Soviet Union and U.S. said, "Oh, what are you doing, man? You guys are not you guys are not the world power anymore. What do you think you are doing? Stand down. We're not going to support you." And in the end, they had no choice but to withdraw their military and looking foolish. And that was understood to be the moment of the end of the colonial empire, of the Anglo-French colonial empire across the globe. And we are at that moment right now in the Red Sea vis-a-vis United States, and the U.S. is being reviewed as an emperor with no clothes. They can't even tell the Yemeni forces what to do. But with regards to Israel, Palestine, I think U.S. will continue to supply weapons and ammunition to Israel, because let's face it, the Israeli military cannot carry out a month-long operation without the resupply from United States. And this conflict has already gone on since how many now we're in February, so it's this would not be possible without the U.S. active U.S. support. And so U.S. but unfortunately U.S. will continue to do that even while sacrificing all the U.S. soft power that built up all over the globe, because the peculiarity of the U.S. domestic politics, and no U.S. politicians want to be seen as anti-Israel. So Joe Biden, I think the Democrats are going to pay the price by losing the election in November. I really think it's going to do it. And then, I don't think there will be a escalation. Israel. But Netanyahu wants to see escalation, but I don't think U.S. is ready for the escalation, because they're already embroiled in Ukraine. I mean, they don't have any extra power. They don't have any extra left to get embroiled into another Middle East war, because their top priorities, remember, still to pivot to Asia to contain China. This is all a distraction for their grand plan. But because Israel is golden boy, so they have to stick with the golden boy. But they don't want to. This is why they probably sent that message to Iran, say, "Oh, please let us bomb you for just a little bit. Please don't escalate." And I think what we need to bear watching is what Israel do, because Israel has been trying to go United States into widen the conflict, by making noises against Lebanon, etc. But I don't even think Israel can do much, because look, we saw what happened when Israel went to southern Lebanon 20 years ago. They got their ass kicked. If they go now, they're gonna get their ass kicked even worse, because the Hezbollah actually had a lot of fighting experience, during their participation in the Syrian war, whereas the Israeli military just spent the last 10 years shooting kids, throwing rocks. So I don't think there's any contest. If Israel expand the war to Lebanon, that would just be, we're just going to start to see the beginning of an end for the state of Israel. So I don't think the U.S. will let that happen. I mean, because but who knows? Netanyahu is crazy. So he's trying to preserve his power base right now. He's trying to preserve his own his own position as a leader of Israel. He's trying to position himself as a wartime leader. And so for him, prolonging the war is necessary so he doesn't get prosecuted for corruption and end up in a prison. So he has every incentive to keep the war going, but I don't think, but this is not good for the state of Israel. This is Israel is not even Israel is not designed to function under a prolonged war. I mean, at the end of the day, they need continuous stream of settlers to come in from Paris, from New York, from London, to sustain this settler colonial project in Palestine. And right now, the settlers are leaving because they're like, "Oh, what the hell? There's fight. We have to be drafted. There's the economy is in the shitters, and what's there left?" And most Israelis, they have options. They have dual passport. Many of them have American passport, British passport, French passport, Italian passport. There are places they can go. Russian passport. There are places they can go. They have options, unlike the Palestinians. So my guess is many will vote with their feet, and that in the end, how can you sustain Israel if nobody wants to wants to stay? I don't know the numbers, but I'm willing to bet not that many settlers are willing to go back to this the Gaza the settlement around Gaza after this. So long term it doesn't look good for the Israel, especially they're not doing themselves any favors by openly flaunting their atrocity on as part of their propaganda, as part of the Israeli propaganda. They really think by showing up, blowing up civilian building is going to win them points in the world. I mean, it's amazing. It's like they zero. It's either zero self-awareness or they just don't care at this point. They're just saying, "Okay, U.S. got our backs no matter what," which may be true for now, but hey, even the U.S. states as a hegemon is coming to an end. So we'll see.
With the collapse, one last thing before we get off the air. I saw a comment. I think it was from Kevin. Kevin Tuway. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your last name. I apologize for that. But he says, "I see Africa rising out of colonialism." What a lot of people don't understand is that China, China may be the manufacturing place for the world, but China has helped to set Africa up to be the manufacturing base for China. And so why does that get overlooked?
Well, when does U.S. media ever report on positive development on Africa? Right, like every time you see Africa, image of Africa in U.S. media, it's either like safari or famine, starvation, or but people don't even know there's economic development in Africa. I remember in early 2000 when I was still in college. Actually, in late 90s, when I was still in college, we had a Kenyan exchange students at Caltech, and one of our residential counselors, RA, asked him, "Oh, do you walk? Do you walk barefoot? They really think people in Nairobi still live in mud huts and stuff." I mean, this is highly educated American, who goes to top elite school like Caltech. This is they still have the same mentality of the Africans living in mud huts or something. And I mean, come on, this guy is an exchange student to Caltech. Just think about it. I mean, why would you think? Anyway, so yeah, people will probably be amazed at some of the development that's taking place on the African continent right now, and China actually have been offshoring manufacturing to Africa for over a decade now, because one reason is because U.S. is trying to put sanctions on the Chinese firms, and at they're trying to put quotas and etc. And Chinese manufacturers like, okay, well we can put factories in Africa, and now they're made in Ethiopia instead of made in China, and this is a win-win situation, right?
Mhm.
It brings jobs to Africa. You still allow them to continually to export to United States under more favorable terms, and so that has been happening for a while, and they were able to do that also because China is also helping building up infrastructure in Africa. So now Africa has ports, has railroads, has roads that once and they have power plants, and China is building
Yes.
power plants. So with these, you can actually set up factories and which process goods and then ship them and load them on boats and sell them to United States. So it's a win-win. And you know what? I think it's just too much to expect Americans to be aware of what's going on in Africa.
Hey, don't forget, China helped some of the African nations set up smart cities also. They have smart, and they're more advanced than anything that most of the Western countries have, and which is crazy because I want everybody that's watching, all 217 people that are watching, put this in the search engine, modern African cities, and then go to just browse, and they are more advanced than anything that you see in the Western world. But you don't get this on the news. So Carl is right about this, and Carl, man, I gotta say thank you, man, for joining me again, man. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. So always fun to chop this up with you, Rashid.
This is my guy right here, Carl. Thank you, man. Be blessed. I'll contact you shortly with the video and everything else, man. Thank you a million.
Always, Rashid. Anytime.
Everybody, hit the like button, subscribe, share with everybody else. Look, we may be having Scott Ritter on sometime. Maybe he can fit us in again. I know that I told you I would have Scott Ritter back on when he came from Russia, and I missed his message to me somehow, and I got back with him. So hopefully when he gets another opening, he'll put us in that slot. Okay, that was I don't know how I missed it, but I missed it, and I just want to inform each and every one of you that my word is bond, and bond is life, and I'll give my life before my word shall fail. On that note, thank each and every one of you for joining me on the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, anywhere across YouTube and social media. This is your platform for education, empowerment, and enlightenment. This is the Red Pill Diaries, and I'm your brother, your host, and your friend, Rashid. And know that I love you more than life if you love truth. But know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that the true and living God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody, and thank you all for joining me.